Hi, I'm Oliver Smith, and this is the story of Footprints. Don't we look young? This was back when I was about 17, 18. The guy with me there is my friend Will, and we had a band together with a bassist called Albert, and we were called Les Voleurs, which was French for the thieves, mainly because we stole a few little cheeky samples here and there. This is in Chapelfield Park in Norwich, not too far from my house. So I actually got my stepdad to bring my whole studio down to the park, and we did this show there with some other bands and stuff. And it was one of the first shows I ever did to a full audience. And we got to the end of the show, and the sound guys said, "I wish you'd told us that you guys were actually good, because we would have pressed record on the tape deck." Yeah, it was cool. I think looking back at it now, it just feels like the natural start of what came after. I just always was fascinated with making music from a really young age. When I was growing up, there was a lot of dance music on TV, even people performing on Top of the Pops. And I remember seeing people like Orbital or Chemical Brothers. So it was everywhere. I was interested in computers and synthesizers and technology, and it just felt like the natural music for me. This is me and Mark Pledger. I couldn't tell you the exact year, but it's sometime in the early 2000s. We were waiting for the bus to go to a gig. That's how we did it in those days. And to be honest, I still do that sometimes. When I got a show in London, I might pop on the bus. You can just about see in the background, Mark is carrying the vinyl over his shoulder. Those bags were heavy. I don't miss that. I think it was the Above and Beyond guys that put us in touch first, yeah. As Smith and Pledger, we did quite a few records together, and it was an important part of my journey with Anjunabeats. We also did some records with Gatecrasher DJ Matt Hardwick. I remember the first time he came over to our studio, it was pretty funny because it was just a room in my flat. We felt like there was this big international DJ coming over, and we had to kind of impress him. But he was totally cool. It was nothing to worry about at all. We actually had a lot of fun doing those records. I think a lot of the sounds in Footprints are classic. I've always been looking for that kind of timelessness to my records. So that's the balance I was trying to get. Okay, this is ABGT 250 at the Gorge in Washington State. It's about 2 or 3 hours drive outside of Seattle to get there. So the journey there's a lot of time to anticipate it. But in this case, I actually had to take some time out from my family vacation. I was actually away in Greece, had to arrange a flight right over to the States, just especially for this show. It was quite a journey to get there, but I'm glad I did it. It was a pivotal moment in my career. As soon as I did this, nothing was the same again. The crowd at ABGT are always so friendly. As one of the artists, you can wander around there and make so many new friends straight away. And that feeling of togetherness is really special. And I remember being backstage just before the set time, and I was very nervous about going out in front of 25,000 people or so. I found some gum backstage, and I thought, yeah, I'll chew some gum, that'll kind of calm me down a bit. I was still chewing the gum, and I chewed it all the way through the set. And then afterwards, I phoned up my mum, and she said, "Why were you chewing gum on stage?" Because they were watching it on the stream from Greece. It's pretty cool. Oh yeah, lots of good friends there. Yeah, this was a day that I think it was Parvo's idea, maybe. We all went to visit the Anjunabeats studios in London, and we were all just sharing ideas about how to make records, how to do better records. And it kind of speaks to the family atmosphere that Anjunabeats has. We were all just trying to make better music. It was a really fun day. Yeah. One of the reasons I wanted to do an album was so I could do some different things than I was already doing. So working with lots of different singers and songwriters allowed me to stretch into new areas that I hadn't done before. And also, I think it's good to have a challenge to try new things. So that's kind of the thinking behind having all the collaborators. Worldwide 08, many hours of blood, sweat and tears went into this, I can tell you that. This was the first compilation that Anjuno asked me to do. And in a way, it was almost my first album because it's got quite a few tracks of my own, plus quite a few remixes that I did especially for it. I still play quite a lot of these in my shows, so it stood the test of time. I'm really proud of it. Yeah. I think Worldwide '08 was good training for doing an album. Obviously it had a few other guys' tracks on there. It gave me a taste for what you could do with the longer form. The guys at Anjunabeats sent me a lot of demos from other people. It was quite hard to pick just the best ones because there was a lot of good material there. But I think adding in the element that I could remix some of them as well, that really gave me the flexibility to shape the mix more. It was really good fun to do the whole thing. This is the famous midweek mix Twitch show that I started doing during the pandemic. The world shut down, so touring the world as a DJ wasn't really possible. I took the opportunity to kind of connect with fans a bit more. We built up a really good community on there. There was a lot of chat in the channels. I had a lot of fun putting different messages in the background and changing things up a little bit every week. So it was a cool experience out of a dark time. We definitely had some die-hard fans who tuned in every week. I think a lot of people were kind of meeting up there every Wednesday, and it was part of their support network during the pandemic as well. The final show was kind of difficult, yeah. It was bittersweet because it took a lot of work to do a whole show on my own. I was setting up my own lights and my own camera and everything, but I do kind of miss it, yeah. During lockdown, I think it was one of the worst times for me in the studio. In theory, you would think that having lots of time to make music would be great, but I was just missing that spark, that connection from doing shows and from seeing the reaction from the new music. I'm glad we're back to normal now. A couple of the tracks on the album had their very beginnings at this time, but they changed quite a lot by the time they made it onto the album. I think Redline was maybe just being started around that time, and Breathe as well, perhaps. Yes, this is Mirage in Brooklyn, New York. Think around about 2022. And I've never been in a venue with bigger screens than this one. It's insane how big it is. Very pleased I'm going to be going back there later this year for the Anjuna 25 show. Got some special edits and things that I'm saving for DJ sets, so it'll be a special set. While I was making the album, I was cautious of not playing out the album tracks too much. I didn't want to wear them out. I wanted to keep them special for when I'm actually doing the album tour. Quite a few of them I hadn't even played before I did the Fabric set. And getting the reaction from people without them even hearing them before was really good. I was really pleased with how they went down there. It's quite rare that I will actually plan out a set. I like to kind of sense the vibe that's in the room that night and follow my instincts. I think it's more fun for me and it's more fun for everyone else that way. That's a nice shade of blue, isn't it? Yeah, we came up with the idea of this being a throwback to the old school days of vinyl where you would go down to the record store and ask the guy if he had something special in, and he'd go and root around in the back and find something with a felt tip pen, bit of writing on it. So that was what we were going for with that. This is, of course, the Be Kind Rewind EP that I did with Andrew Bear. The spark for this project was when I went to visit Andrew at his house, and we were just messing around in the studio, having a bit of fun. The first track that we did was Rude Boys. We found that bassline sound, and everything else just fell together straight away, pretty effortlessly. We were just jumping around the room, having fun, being Rude Boys. Yeah, I've known Andrew for years, but this was the first time we actually did a release together. We'd remixed each other before, that kind of thing, but first time we did an actual project together. We did some back-to-back sets, which were a lot of fun, playing out this whole EP, plus some other garagey influenced edits that we'd made. Andrew put together one of Robert Miles' Children with kind of a garage bass line, which was so much fun to play out because everyone was expecting the trance drop. Each time we played it, it was a nice surprise. Yes, this is me sat on the bus, editing some vocals. This was actually towards the end of the album process. I was feeling the pressure. The deadlines were coming up and things needed to be done. So I had this journey to and from the studio and I was trying to get a little bit extra done. But the cool thing was, whilst I was traveling through London on a bus or a train. It also gave a new kind of perspective on the music and made me experience the tracks in a different way. And actually the journey from my home to the studio was about the same length as the final album. Over the course of the final weeks, I was fine-tuning all of the transitions and starts and ends and little things like that. So I think London plays a part in the album as well. Yes, me and the boys going to Sainsbury's for the meal deal. If you're not from the UK, you might not be familiar with the meal deal, but it's like a cut price lunch where you can choose like a sandwich and a drink and a snack. Something cool about doing that with these international DJs who happen to be my friends. The irony of this is that Jono was saying, oh, Tony loves his meal deals. He's like the one that's really into the meal deals. Jono's more likely to go for something a bit better. This was taken when I was borrowing the Anjunabeats studios to mix down the album. I've got a pretty nice setup at home. I'm pretty lucky, but obviously you can't beat a purpose-built room. It was great to go into the Anjunabeats studio complex and hang out with the guys and get to talk music, and I think that made the album as good as it could be. I've been with the label since the very beginning. I remember hanging out with the guys when they were remixing Madonna from their bedroom, going on tour with them in the UK. The cool thing is they're still the same guys that I knew, and we still have the same love for music that we had from back then. So it's nice when we do hang out in the studio and talk music. It's pretty much just like the old days. It's so natural. I remixed Above and Beyond Gratitude. Ever since I made it, it's been in pretty much all of my sets. And luckily enough, quite a lot of their sets too. We've been meaning to do some music together for years, and it hasn't happened yet, but you never know. This is at the Church nightclub in Denver, which is actually an old church. It's a nightclub. In the photo with me, that's Midnight Amity, who is singing on Breathe, which is featured on the album. I actually finished a demo of that song on the flight over to Denver, took it down to the show and played it out that night. And there's a video of us jumping around like maniacs because it went down so well. It was a really nice way to debut that track to the world. When I played this one out, I felt a bit like I had a kind of secret weapon that nobody knew about. We kept it under wraps that I was doing an album for quite a while as well. The guys at the label suggested that we ask Midnight Amity to do some vocals on this track. I already had the instrumental finished. It wasn't until later that I actually realized that her fiance is somebody that I'd remixed before, Sean Mitiska. That's a nice little loop in the universe. The idea behind calling the album Footprints is because I've been with Anjunabeats for 25 years now, never actually released that artist album. Looking behind me at the footprints, it kind of shows the journey which brought me to where I am now. I'm really excited to take the album on tour, visit all of the fans that I've met before and some new ones, and share the music with them. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Thanks Anjuna for joining me for the story of Footprints. The album is out now.